Welcome, gently. There is nothing tonight that needs your full attention. You may close your eyes whenever you'd like, or let them drift half open, or all the way shut. The story will keep going either way. Tonight, we are going to wander through 100 soft facts about a part of you that has worked very hard today, and that almost never gets thanked for it. Your hands. Not your tired thoughts. Not your long day. Not the messages you didn't quite reply to. Just your hands. The quiet architecture of small bones, and the soft rivers of warmth in the palms. The fingertips that have touched 1,000 small things since morning, and the wrists that have carried 1,000 small gestures. Your hands are the body's longest whisper, and tonight, we're going to let that whisper trail off into sleep. You do not have to remember anything. You do not have to learn anything. You do not have to follow along. Each of these facts is a small stone, gently placed, and then allowed to sink. If you fall asleep before fact 10, that is the best ending. If you fall asleep before fact 1, that is even better. We will move through 12 quiet clusters of facts, and each one is its own small room. You may stay, or you may drift between them. The voice will not raise itself. The story will not surprise you. Nothing exciting is going to happen. And that, tonight, is exactly the gift. You might notice where your hands are resting right now. They might be at your sides, like two small sleeping animals. They might be folded gently. They might be one over the other, the way sleeping hands often find their way. Wherever they are already home. Take a slow, ordinary breath, the kind you take when no one is watching, and another, if you'd like. The day is mostly done. The room is mostly quiet. Your hands have already done enough today. Let us begin, very softly, with the smallest fact of all. Perhaps, whenever you're ready, you might let your jaw soften, just a little. There is nothing for it to hold tonight. Each of your hands is a small library of 27 bones, and tonight, every one of them is allowed to be still. Inside each hand, the body has quietly built something remarkable. 27 small bones, fitted together with the patience of a clockmaker, 8 at the wrist, where they nestle in 2 soft rows, 5 running like quiet beams across the palm, and 14 more, inside the fingers and the thumb, across both hands. The body carries 54 small bones, nearly a quarter of every bone you have. They are not built for force. They are built for fine, almost unnoticed motion. Most of them, most of the time, do nothing dramatic. They simply hold their shape and let the surface of the day pass softly over them. The hand is not muscle pretending to be a tool. The hand is a soft mathematics of bone. Tonight, this small library can rest. The pages of bone are still. The shelves are quiet. Nothing is being filed away. The hand has done its day's reading and is letting the silence take over. At each wrist, 8 small carpal bones are arranged like river stones, smoothed by years of slow water. The wrist holds 8 small bones, called the carpals. Each one has its own old anatomy book name: scaphoid, lunate, triquetrum, pisiform, trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, hamate. They sit in 2 gentle rows, 4 in each, between the long bones of the forearm and the longer bones of the palm. Their shapes are unlike any others in the body. Small, irregular, polished by use. Some look like crescents, some like wedges, some like quiet pebbles. None of them are flat. They glide softly past one another, allowing the wrist to bend and turn without ever raising its voice. They are some of the slowest bones in the body to harden in childhood, as if even time wanted to be careful with them. Tonight, the 8 river stones at each wrist can lie quietly in their slow water. They have moved enough today. Now the current is still, and the stones are at the bottom, where they prefer to be. Across the palm of each hand, 5 long bones called metacarpals run like quiet beams beneath the skin, just past the wrist. The palm is held up by 5 long, gentle bones called metacarpals, one for each finger and one for the thumb. They lie almost parallel, like beams in the floor of an old wooden room. When you make a fist, the heads of these bones become the soft hills of your knuckles. When the hand is open and resting, they spread out, and the palm becomes a shallow valley between them. Compared to the bones of the fingers, the metacarpals are surprisingly long. Together, they make up most of the length of the palm. They are doing very little right now. They are simply holding the soft tent of skin and tendon above them, like quiet rafters. Tonight, the rafters of the palm can settle. The little wooden room of your hand is empty of work. The 5 long beams are still. Nothing is built tonight. Nothing is taken apart. Inside the fingers and the thumb, 14 small bones, called phalanges, hold the body's gentlest tools. Past the knuckles, the bones grow shorter and quieter. There are 14 of them in each hand, 3 in each of the 4 fingers, and 2 in the thumb. They are called phalanges, an old word that once meant a small line of soldiers, though these particular soldiers have spent most of their lives picking things up gently and putting them down again. The longest are nearest the knuckle, the shortest are at the very tip, just under the nail. Together, they let the finger curl in 3 soft hinges, and let the thumb fold in 2. Most of what your hands have done today, typing, holding, turning, soothing, has happened through these small bones, almost too small to feel. Tonight, the small line of bones inside each finger may finally stand down. They have carried the day in tiny, almost invisible movements. Now they can rest, the way an old line of soldiers finally lies down in the grass. Together, your 2 hands hold roughly 1/4 of every bone in your body. The adult human body has, on average, about 206 bones, and nearly 54 of them, 27 in each hand, live below the wrists. That means roughly 1 in 4 of your bones is part of your hands. It is a strangely large share for such a small region of the body. Most of the rest of the skeleton is built for support. The long bones of the legs, the strong cage of the ribs, the column of the spine. The hands are different. They are built for delicacy. The body has put 1/4 of its architecture into a place that mostly does small, careful, almost private things. Tonight, that 1/4 of the body's framework can soften. The spine, the legs, the ribs, all have their work to do. But the hands, that quiet 1/4, have already finished. Their part of the architecture is done for the day. At the wrist, the 8 small carpals are arranged in 2 gentle rows, the way old houses might face each other across a quiet lane. Look at the inside of your wrist, where the soft skin sits over the small bones below. Beneath that skin, the carpals are arranged in 2 neat rows. The first row is closer to the forearm. The second is closer to the palm. The rows are slightly curved, like benches in an old quiet courtyard. As the wrist moves, the bones in each row glide softly against the bones in the other. There is no grinding sound. There is barely any sound at all. Most of the wrist's motion is shared across many tiny shifts, no single bone bearing too much. The body, here, prefers conversation to wait. Tonight, the 2 small rows of bones can settle, like 2 friendly lanes of houses with all the lights turned off. The wrist is not asked to turn or carry anything now. The courtyard between them is empty and softly dark. Whenever you're ready, you might let your shoulders drop a quiet inch. They have been carrying small things all day, and tonight they are allowed to set them down. No 2 of the 8 carpal bones at the wrist share the same shape. Each one is its own small, irregular gem. Most bones in the body have a partner that mirrors them. The 2 collarbones, the 2 femurs, the long bones of the arms. But inside each wrist, the 8 carpals are all different from one another. The scaphoid is shaped a little like a small boat. The lunate has a soft crescent curve, the way the moon does just past full. The pisiform is barely larger than a pea. The hamate has a small hook on its underside. Together, they are not a row of identical pieces, but a small set of irregular companions, each shaped exactly for the part of the wrist's motion it is meant to hold. The wrist works, in part, because none of them are the same. Tonight, the small, irregular gems can rest in their soft setting. They have moved together all day, each slightly different, each fitting into a story the others did not have. Now their story is paused, and they can simply be quietly there. The architecture of the hand is built equally for holding on and for letting go. Look at the way the hand opens and closes. Each finger is hinged at 3 places, and the thumb at 2. The wrist itself is hinged in 8 more, through the carpals. That is 23 hinges in each hand, all curving the same direction. They make it easy to close. But notice, they make it equally easy to open. The body has never built a hand that could only grasp. Every joint that closes also opens. Every muscle that pulls a finger in has a quieter partner that opens it again. To grip is half of the design. To release is the other half. The hand has known this since it was built. Tonight, the half of the design that lets go is the one being asked to speak. The hand is not gripping. It is opening. Slowly, softly. All 23 small hinges agree on the same gentle direction. Rest beneath the skin of every fingertip. Thousands of tiny sensory points wait quietly, like a small audience that has been listening all day. Each fingertip is one of the most densely populated places in your whole body. Beneath that small patch of skin, there are thousands of tiny sensory endings, each tuned to a slightly different kind of touch. They have been catching the texture of fabric, the cool of glass, the warmth of a cup, the small shapes of keys, all day long. Most of what they passed on, your conscious mind never even noticed. Touch is one of the body's quietest senses. It does not announce itself the way sight or sound do. It simply notes, and notes, and notes, and lets you live inside that quiet noticing. Tonight, the small audience inside each fingertip is allowed to lower its attention. The day is over. The performance is done. The little listeners can lean back into their seats and let the lights dim. Nothing more needs to be heard. There are 4 main kinds of touch receptors in your hands, each one listening for a different kind of message. When you reach for something with your hand, 4 different kinds of small receptors begin to listen at once. Some are looking for fast, light vibrations. Some are listening for deeper, slower hums. Some pay attention to steady pressure, the way a hand stays on someone's shoulder, and some quietly track the gentle stretching of the skin. Each one has a name from old anatomy textbooks, but really they are just 4 kinds of patient ears, set deeply into the same patch of skin, together. They tell the brain not just whether something is touching, but the texture of it, the temperature, the weight, and the way it shifts. They work in chorus, not alone. Tonight, all 4 kinds of listeners can lower their voices. The chorus is finishing its last quiet song. The audience inside the skin is ready to drift to sleep, with all 4 notes blending softly into silence. Just below the skin of your palms and fingertips, small Meissner corpuscles listen for the lightest, most fleeting touches. Among the 4 kinds of touch receptors, the Meissner corpuscles are the ones that respond to the softest things, a bit of pollen drifting across the back of the hand, the first fold of a sheet against the fingers, the almost not there sensation of warm breath. They sit very close to the surface of the skin, and they react quickly to gentle vibrations. Then, just as quickly, they go quiet again. They are not built for steady pressure. They are built for the small, fleeting hellos of the day. They notice. They pass the message along, and they stop. Tonight, the small sensors that listen for the lightest touches can rest. The day's many small hellos are over. Nothing is brushing them now except, perhaps, the quiet weight of the blanket, settling slowly into place. Deeper in the hand, larger Pacinian corpuscles wait for the slow, low hum of heavier vibration, a few millimeters below the skin, sometimes wrapped around small nerves like onion skin. Sit the Pacinian corpuscles. They are larger than the Meissner ones, almost visible to the eye if you knew where to look. They are tuned to deeper, slower vibrations, the rumble of a passing truck, the gentle hum of a phone on the table, the steady quiver of a bowed string. They are part of why the body can feel a tremor through a wall, or why the hands can tell a stone is hollow by tapping it. They send their message slowly, a low and patient note compared to the bright quickness of their neighbors. Tonight, the deep hum sensors can fall silent. There are no trucks passing inside the room, no strings being plucked, just the small, steady drum of a heart and the soft tide of breath. Even those, if you listen, are kind to them. If you'd like, let the small space between your eyebrows grow soft. There is nothing it needs to hold there tonight. Quietly tucked into the deeper layers of the skin, Merkel's cells listen for the long, steady weight of pressure. Some touch sensors are designed for what comes and goes. Others are designed for what stays. The Merkel cells belong to the second kind. When something rests on the hand for a long time, the weight of a book in your palm, the curve of a sleeping child's head against your wrist, the Merkel cells are the ones that quietly keep noticing. They do not lose interest the way faster receptors do. They keep their small, steady note for as long as the pressure lasts. They are part of why a hand can hold someone gently for many minutes and still know exactly where they are. Tonight, no long wait is asked of your hand. There is nothing being held in place. The Merkel cells inside your skin can rest from their patient listening. The hand is allowed to be empty, and the empty palm is allowed to be enough. Spread thinly across the deeper skin. Ruffini endings notice the gentle stretching of the hand as it moves. When you open your hand wide, or when the skin at the back of your wrist pulls slightly as you bend it, there are small sensors paying attention. They are called Ruffini endings, and they are tuned not to pressure or vibration, but to stretch. They are part of why the body can quietly know the shape of its own hand, even with the eyes closed. Without them, fine movements would feel strangely numb, even if everything else were intact. They contribute to a sense the body uses constantly, but rarely names. The soft awareness of where the hand is in space. Tonight, the gentle stretch sensors can rest. The hand is not opening or closing. The wrist is not bending. The skin is at its quietest length. The body knows, without needing to look, exactly where the hand is. And the hand is exactly where it would like to be. The fingertips hold roughly 4 times the receptor density of the palm. They are some of the most sensitive places on the body. If you imagine the palm as a quiet field and the fingertips as small, busy gardens, the comparison is roughly right. Studies have measured the density of touch receptors at different parts of the hand and found that the fingertips, especially the pads of the fingers, hold around 4 times as many small sensors per square centimeter as the palm. That is part of why the fingertips can read Braille. Find a single hair on a tabletop and tell 2 close points apart. The body has invested heavily in the very ends of the fingers, the small place where you most often meet the world. Tonight, the busy gardens at the ends of your fingers can grow still. They have read the day. They have met the world many times in many small ways. Now they are settling, like a garden at dusk when the bees have all gone home. Of all the places on the body, the hand is among the most sensitive, almost as sensitive as the lips. When researchers map sensitivity across the whole body, checking how close 2 touches can come together before they feel like one touch, the hand consistently shows up as one of the most finely tuned places of all. Only the lips and the tip of the tongue rival it. The back, the thigh, the upper arm. These are far less precise. The body has built its richest hearing for touch into the parts that touch the world most. The lips, for the food and the small hellos and the words. The tongue, for the food and the words. And the hands, for nearly everything else. Tonight, the most finely tuned listeners can be quiet. They have heard the day. They have read its many small textures, its temperatures, its small kindnesses. Now the body has set them down, like instruments laid carefully into velvet at the end of a concert. All those careful listeners inside your hands, millions of them, are allowed, tonight, to rest from listening. The receptors in the skin do not need anyone to thank them. They do not announce themselves. They simply listen and pass their small messages on and listen again. Through the day, they may have caught the cool of a doorknob in the morning, the slight warmth of bread, the small bumps of a phone case, the sleeve of a familiar coat, the surface of a glass of water. They do not remember any of it. They are not built for memory. They are built for the long, soft now of the body. And the now, tonight, is becoming softer and slower than they have known all day. Tonight, the millions of small ears inside the skin of your hands can lower themselves into the quiet. They have heard. They have helped. They are allowed to set the day down. Whatever passed across them today is finished. And the silence is welcome. You might notice your hands resting somewhere. Let them be where they are. There is no need to move them. Some nerves in your skin are not in a hurry. They prefer the slow, gentle pace of a long, easy stroke. Most of the nerves in the skin are quick. They notice a touch, send a fast electrical message, and reset. But there is another kind, slower and quieter, that the body does not rush. These are sometimes called C-tactile fibers, and they prefer a particular kind of touch, slow, gentle, and roughly skin temperature. A long, soft stroke down the arm, the slow drift of a finger along the back of a hand. They are not built to tell you the difference between a glass and a stone. They are built for something else. The soft chemistry of being touched kindly. Their messages travel less quickly to the brain, but they linger longer once they arrive. Tonight, no slow stroke is being asked of these patient nerves. They are simply at rest. But somewhere inside them, the body remembers their preferred speed. Slow, kind, almost lazy, and the breath begins, gently, to match it. The slow nerves of the skin respond best to a touch moving about 3 centimeters per second, almost exactly the pace of a hand stroking a sleeping animal. When researchers tested different speeds of gentle touch, they found that these slow nerves had a clear preference. Not a fast brushing, not a still pressure. A movement of about 3 centimeters per second. Slower than walking, faster than not moving at all. It is the speed at which a hand might trail along a child's back as they fall asleep, or smooth a sleeping cat from the head down to the tail. The body, it turns out, has built into its skin a recognition for that exact pace, as if the cells themselves know what kindness feels like at that speed. Tonight, the body's preferred speed of kindness is already inside you. 3 centimeters per second. The slow drift of breath, the slow drift of warmth across the skin, the slow drift of the day. Finally, into the quieter hours. These slow nerves answer best when the touch is around skin temperature. Not hot, not cool, just the warmth of another body. The slow nerves are not just particular about speed. They are also particular about warmth. They respond most strongly when the temperature of the touch is around the temperature of skin itself. Neither warm nor cold to the body, but matched. It is as if the body is built to recognize the touch of another body specifically, more than the touch of an object. A cup of tea, a sheet, a sleeve. These can be too hot or too cool. Skin matches skin. The body has been listening for skin since long before there were words for any of it. Tonight, even alone, the body can imagine that warmth. The blanket may already be at skin temperature. The other side of the pillow soon will be. The body is being quietly recognized, even now, by its own gentle warmth. And that, sometimes, is enough. For many years, scientists believed these slow nerves lived only in hairy skin. But recent work has shown they whisper through the palms too. Early studies suggested that the slow, kind nerves were only present in skin that had hair, the back of the hand, the forearm, the cheeks, the smooth, hairless skin of the palms and soles seemed to have none. But more recent microneurography studies have found that they are there too, just less dense, hidden among the busier, faster nerves. The palms, it turns out, can hear the slow speed of kindness as well. They simply do it more quietly. The way some friends listen without saying very much. Tonight, the palms of your hands are listening. Not loudly, but enough. They have always been listening, even when no one knew. They are part of the long, quiet conversation the body has been having with kindness. Since long before it could be measured, when someone holds your hand, palm against palm, those slow nerves are part of why the gesture feels like more than skin meeting skin. Two hands meeting palm to palm is one of the oldest gestures in any culture. A handshake, a held hand at a hospital bed, the small clasp of friends. Inside the skin where those palms meet, the slow nerves are catching not just pressure but the warmth and the slow movement of the other hand. The brain receives those messages and quietly translates them into a feeling, closeness, comfort, sometimes the easing of fear. None of this is loud. It does not announce itself. It simply softens whatever the body was carrying. Tonight, even an imagined hand can speak the same slow language. The body remembers the feel of palms it has known. It does not need a real one to be warmed by the memory. The slow conversation continues, palm against the soft inside of the night. Unlike most nerves, these slow ones do not carry sharp information. They carry something closer to tenderness. The fast nerves of the skin are very useful. They tell the brain whether something is sharp or smooth, hot or cold, dangerous or safe. They are how the hand pulls away from a flame, or knows that a glass is heavier than it looks. The slow nerves, on the other hand, do not bring news. They bring something quieter. Their message to the brain is less about what is happening and more about how it feels to be touched at all. They are part of the body's emotional life, written into the skin itself. Tonight, the body's emotional skin can rest along with the rest of you. There is no news to deliver. There is no weather to report. The skin can simply be skin, and the slow nerves can be silent, and the silence can be tender enough. This is part of why a held hand can feel, all on its own, like a soft pillow under a tired head. When the slow nerves are activated by gentle, skin-warm touch, parts of the brain associated with comfort and emotional regulation become more quiet. Heart rate often softens. Stress markers in saliva can drop. Pain feels less sharp. The body, in a small way, settles. This is part of why a held hand at a bedside can change the quality of an entire day, and why parents have known for thousands of years that a hand on a child's back at bedtime helps them fall asleep. The body has been building itself to feel safer when it is touched kindly for a very long time. Tonight, the body has its own kind of held hand inside it. The slow rivers of warmth in the palms. The soft chemistry of kindness. You are, in a small and quiet way, already being held by your own body. And that is enough to begin sleep. Maybe your eyelids are heavier than they were a moment ago. There is nothing they need to keep open tonight. These slow nerves are slow on purpose. They are like an evening walk for the body, when the day has run all of its faster errands. The body could have built its kindness into a fast nerve. It chose not to. The slow nerves are slow by design. Their messages take their time. Their effects linger. They are the part of the body that has always known the difference between rushing somewhere and arriving softly. Even the chemistry that follows them, the small molecules that softly calm the heart and slow the breath, works on a slower clock than most of the body's signals. Kindness, written into the skin, runs at the speed of an evening walk. Tonight, the body has slowed to that older, kinder speed. The day's faster nerves have done their fast work. Now the slow ones are leading the walk back home. They are not in any hurry. There is nothing left to chase. The evening is enough. No two fingerprints in the world are exactly alike, not even on identical twins. When researchers compare fingerprints, even between people who share the same DNA, the small ridges and valleys are always different. Identical twins have the most similar prints anyone can find. But a careful look will always reveal small, gentle differences. A slightly different curve here. A tiny extra island of skin there. The reason is that fingerprints form not just from genetics, but also from the small, almost random way the skin grows and pulls inside the womb. Each fingertip becomes its own quiet handwriting. There are roughly 8 billion people in the world, and roughly 80 billion fingertips. Every one of them is unrepeated. Tonight, your 10 quiet handwritings can rest. They will not be read by anyone. They will not be matched, or compared, or filed. They are simply yours. 10 small private letters folded gently into the night. The ridges of your fingerprints formed before you were born, around the 3rd or 4th month of life. Long before you took your first breath, the small swirls and arches on your fingertips were already there. They form in the womb sometime around the 13th to 19th week of life, when the skin of the fingers is still soft and forming layers. As the skin grows, tiny pulls and tensions in the deeper tissue create the ridges that will last your whole life. They are some of the very first details of you to be drawn. They were already in place before you had ever held anything, before you had ever heard your own name. Tonight, those small early drawings rest at the ends of your fingers. They were the first version of you to take shape. They have stayed faithful to that shape ever since, while everything else slowly changed. They are quietly older than your memory itself. Your fingerprints are not a secret. They are simply a private map, drawn in lines so small that only the eyes know how to read them. When you press a finger gently to a piece of paper, the tiny ridges on your skin lift and lower the ink in a way that creates a soft pattern. Each pattern has loops, arcs, and whorls, and the ridges between them often form small islands and forks. None of this is hidden. It has been visible to anyone with a good lens for centuries. And yet, it is private in another way. Only you carry exactly that map on your hands. It is yours, the way a quiet birthmark is yours. an identifying gentleness rather than a secret code. Tonight, your private maps can fold and rest. No one is reading them. No one is searching them. They are simply quiet drawings on the ends of your fingers, settled into the dark of your palms. Along every ridge of your fingerprints, tiny sweat pores open and close to keep your grip steady. If you look at a fingerprint very closely, the ridges are dotted with tiny pores. These are small openings of sweat glands, and they have a quiet job. When the skin gets too dry, they release a thin layer of moisture so the fingertip can grip. When the skin gets too damp, they slow down so the grip does not slip. The body keeps the friction of the fingertip in a soft, narrow range. Almost without your noticing, it has been doing this for you all day. Every time you held something, a phone, a cup, a doorknob, a pen. Tonight, the small pores along your ridges can rest. There is nothing to grip. The skin can be its own quiet temperature, neither too dry nor too damp. The body's small adjustments are over for the day. The fingertips spend their whole lives finding the gentle balance between just enough damp and just enough dry. This balance is one of the body's smallest forms of skill. Pick up a sheet of paper, and the fingertip moistens slightly so it does not slide. Pick up a wet glass, and the fingertip dries slightly so it does not slip. The change is invisible. It happens in seconds. Across a single day, the fingertips may make this small adjustment hundreds of times. Most of the world's machines, even very precise ones, struggle to reproduce this kind of gentle balancing. The body has been doing it as a soft afterthought, since long before there were machines. Tonight, the small balancers can be still. The fingertips are not being asked to grip or release. They have done that work all day, kindly and quietly. Now they may simply lie at their own gentle, resting humidity. Enough. Allow your hands to be heavy, as if they belong to someone gently asleep already. There is nothing for them to do. Your fingerprints carry no destiny, only a quiet signature, like the way an old letter is signed at the bottom. Some old stories suggest that fingerprints can predict things. Personality, is talent, future, a fortune. As far as careful science can tell, none of those stories hold up. The ridges on your fingertips do not say anything about the kind of life you will live, the choices you will make, or the people you will meet. They are not a forecast. They are simply a signature, a way the body has of marking that this hand, and no other, has lived as you. Nothing more, nothing less. Tonight, your signatures can rest at the ends of your fingers, quiet and uncommented. They have signed the day. They are not signing anything more. The pen has been set down, and the small letters are folded gently away. Every fingertip on your hands is its own small landscape, with slightly different weather, slightly different terrain. The thumb tends to have a broader print, with wider loops and a bit more area to grip. The index finger often has slightly tighter ridges, sharper edges, more holes. The third finger sits a little drier. The ring finger, a little softer. Even the pinky finger, the smallest, has its own quiet pattern, often with finer lines than the others. None of these differences are dramatic. They are simply the small, varied weathers of a small range of mountains. The body, when it built your hands, did not bother to make any two fingertips identical. Tonight, the 10 small landscapes can rest. The weather across them is calm. The mountains are not asking to be climbed. The terrain has done its day of meeting the world and is now allowed to be its own quiet country. Tonight, the private map of your fingertips is folded and resting in the dark, safe and unread. There is something quietly comforting about a map that is not currently in use. The route is not being chosen. The destination is not being argued over. The little folds of paper rest peacefully against each other, all of their lines protected. Your fingerprints, tonight, are like that. They are not being scanned, photographed, or analyzed. They are not even being noticed. They are simply present. 10 small folded maps, quietly held in the larger soft folds of your palms. Tonight, the maps can stay folded. The drawer of the body has closed gently around them. They will be there tomorrow, exactly as they were today, exactly as they have been since the very first weeks of you. For now, they may simply rest. In the brain's quiet map of the body, the hand is far larger than its actual size suggests. Inside the cortex of the brain, there is a long, thin strip that maps the body part by part. Each piece of the body has a corresponding patch of brain that listens to it, and another that moves it. But the sizes of these patches do not match the sizes of the body parts. The back, which is large, gets only a small patch of brain. The hand, which is small, gets an enormous one. So does the face, especially the lips and the tongue. The body's most expressive places have, by far, the most quiet attention from the brain. Tonight, the large patch of brain that listens to your hand can lower its volume. The hand is still. The brain's big map of it is at rest. The corresponding lights inside the cortex are dimming, the way streetlights dim when a town goes to sleep. If the brain drew a self-portrait of the body using only the size of its attention, the hands would be enormous. There is an old illustration in neuroscience called the homunculus. It shows a small figure whose body parts are sized not by how big they are, but by how much of the brain's surface is dedicated to them. In that figure, the hands look almost ridiculous. Enormous palms, huge fingers, a massive thumb. The face is also large. The trunk, the arms, the legs are tiny in comparison. It is a strange portrait, and yet a deeply honest one. It shows where the brain has chosen to spend its quiet care. Tonight, the brain's huge-handed self-portrait can rest. The big palms, the big thumb, the big careful fingers, all the parts the brain has loved most. They can lie quietly on the bed beside you. Their portraits, like all good portraits, can simply hang in the dark. Roughly a quarter of the motor cortex, the part of the brain that moves the body, is devoted to your hands. Of all the parts of the body that the brain can move, the hands take up the largest share of the brain's motor cortex. Researchers studying the brain's movement areas have found that nearly a quarter of that whole region is dedicated to controlling the muscles of the hands and fingers. That is more than the brain spends on the legs, more than it spends on the trunk, almost as much as it spends on the face. The brain has invested heavily in the precise, small movements that the hands carry out almost without effort. Tonight, that large region of the brain can grow quiet. There are no fine movements being asked of it, no buttons to press, no cups to lift, no fingers to curl. The big motor map of the hands can dim and dim and dim, like a great theater after the audience has finally gone home. Perhaps your belly might soften with the next slow breath. There is nothing it needs to hold tight tonight. A similar share of the sensory cortex, the part of the brain that listens to the body, is set aside just for the hands. Beside the motor cortex sits another long strip of brain, called the sensory cortex. It listens to incoming touch, pressure, temperature, and stretch from across the body like the motor side. It has a big share dedicated to the hands, nearly as large as the motor portion. So both speaking to the hands and listening to the hands take up vast amounts of the brain's quiet real estate. The hand is one of the body's biggest conversations with itself. Tonight, both halves of that conversation are softening. The brain is not telling the hand to do anything. The hand is not telling the brain anything in return. The big rooms of cortex, on both sides, can grow dark and quiet. The dialogue is paused. The hand and the brain are old companions. They have grown together, side by side, for a very long time. When fossil scientists look at the skulls and the hand bones of early humans, they find that the brain and the hand seem to have grown more capable at roughly the same time. As the hand became better at fine grasping, the brain grew more layered and more connected. As the brain grew, the hand could be trusted with more delicate work. They have not developed apart from each other. They have developed in a quiet braid, each helping the other become more itself. Tonight, the long companions can rest side by side, the hand at the body's edge, the brain inside the dark of the skull. They have been together for a very long time, and tonight, they may both sleep. This quiet braid between the hand and the brain has been forming for nearly 2 million years. 2 million years is roughly the time since some of the earliest known stone tools, made by our distant ancestors. Those tools required hands precise enough to chip flakes of rock at exactly the right angle, and brains organized enough to plan what was being made. From that time onward, hand and brain have been refining each other in slow, steady steps. The hand you have today is, in a real way, a hand that has been carried through that long, unbroken story. Tonight, your hand has set down 2 million years of work. It is allowed, finally, to be exactly as still as it would like to be. The long story does not need to be carried any further before morning. When the hands settle into stillness, parts of the brain settle along with them. Brain imaging studies show that the regions tied to the hand quiet down when the hand is no longer being used. Activity in the motor and sensory hand maps drops. Connected networks in the brain, the ones that plan and predict the hand's next move, also become more silent. The brain, in a sense, follows the hand into rest. So a still hand is not just a still hand. It is a small cue to a big region of the brain that the day's work is done. Tonight, the small cue has been given. The hands are still, and in answer, the big map of them inside the brain is also growing still. You are quietly invited to follow them both into deeper sleep. Tonight, the cortex's biggest hand, the one drawn so large in the brain's secret portrait, is allowed to lie still. All day, the brain has been keeping that big inner hand active, listening for what the real hand felt. telling it where to move, tracking, planning, adjusting. That work happens beneath your awareness, but it is real, and it takes effort. At night, that effort is allowed to ease. The brain's giant hand and the body's small hand match each other in stillness. They both lie down together. They both let the day's gentle holding finally be over. Tonight, the big hand inside the brain and the small hand at the edge of the body are equally still. They were both working all day. Now they are both off duty. The portrait is at rest. The painter has gone to sleep. The opposable thumb is, in a way, the oldest tool the body has ever carried. The thumb you have on each hand can fold across the palm and meet each of the other 4 fingers in turn. That small motion, called opposition, is unusual in the animal world. A few of our closest evolutionary relatives can do something similar, but no other living creature does it as fully and easily as humans. Without that single ability, almost everything the hand has ever done, holding a pen, threading a needle, tying a knot, lifting a glass, would be much harder. The thumb is the soft hinge on which the entire usefulness of the hand quietly turns. Tonight, the oldest tool of all can rest. The thumb folds gently along the side of the hand, or curls into the palm, or simply lies open to the air. There is nothing it has to oppose. There is nothing it has to meet. Notice the small space between your fingers. There is nothing for them to hold tonight. With each hand, the thumb can meet each of the other fingertips, one by one, in a small, soft circle. This little circle has many quiet uses. With the thumb and the index finger, it forms what biologists call a precision pinch. The soft O, used for picking up a single grain of rice or threading a needle. With the third finger, it forms the gentle clasp used for holding a pen. With the ring finger, the slightly weaker hold used for shaping clay or smoothing fabric. With the pinky, the soft loop most often used by musicians and craftspeople. Each circle is small, but together they cover much of the hand's careful work. Tonight, the small circles of the day are all dissolved. The hand is open or softly curled, with no precision required. The thumb and the 4 fingers can rest in their own ordinary distances, no longer forming any quiet O. Early human ancestors learned the precision pinch slowly, over hundreds of thousands of generations. Looking at the hand bones of fossil ancestors, scientists can trace the slow rise of the precision pinch through time. The thumb grew slightly longer relative to the fingers. The muscles at the base of the thumb grew stronger and more flexible. The wrist became better at supporting the small angles needed for fine work. None of this happened in a hurry. It happened across many lifetimes, in many bodies, very few of whom ever knew they were part of any larger story. Tonight, that long story can rest. The thumb that took hundreds of thousands of generations to refine is asleep at the side of your hand. It does not need to make any more progress before morning. The story has done enough. Stone tools, found in old earth all over the world, still hold the soft shape of the hands that made them. When archaeologists examine ancient stone tools, they often find subtle marks left by the hands that shaped them. Small grooves on the side worn by the thumb, smooth places worn by the palm. The angles tell stories about how the hand held the rock, how it struck, how it rested. Some of those tools are roughly as old as the precision pinch itself. The Earth has been quietly storing the imprint of human hands for nearly 2 million years, in stones too patient to forget. Tonight, your hands are not making any new shapes. They are simply resting in their own soft outlines. Somewhere in the world, an old stone is also resting, carrying the memory of an older hand. Both, tonight, are still. It was hands, working slowly and patiently, that first invented fire. The first hearths in the human story go back many hundreds of thousands of years. Whoever started those fires, ancestors with brains and hands much like yours, used careful, repeated motions to coax sparks from stone or friction from wood. It must have taken many failed attempts, many cold nights, before fire became something a hand could make on purpose. From that small handmade spark grew warmth, cooked food, light in the dark, and the long human tradition of telling stories around a fire. Tonight, your hands do not need to make any fire. The warmth around you was made for you in advance. By walls, by blankets, by quiet appliances. Your hands may simply rest in that warmth. The inheritors of a fire they no longer have to start. Hands also taught language to live outside the mouth, long before there were any written words. Many researchers believe that gesture and pointing were among the earliest forms of human communication, possibly even before complex spoken language. A hand could direct another hand toward danger, toward food, toward a child. A hand could shape the air into a small story before any sound was made. Even today, when speech fails, the hands often pick up the conversation. Sign languages, fully formed, with grammar and poetry, are an entire flowering of this old gift. Tonight, your hands are not asked to speak. They have spoken enough today. In small typed messages, in waved hellers, in gestures you barely noticed yourself making. Now they are quiet at the ends of your arms, and the conversation is over for the day. Cave walls in many parts of the world still hold the painted outlines of hands belonging to people who lived tens of thousands of years ago. In caves in Europe, in Indonesia, in Argentina, in Africa, archaeologists have found hand stencils painted onto the rock. The technique was simple. A person placed a hand against the cool stone and blew a mouthful of pigment around it, leaving a clear outline. Some of those handprints belonged to children, some to women, some to men. Many of them are now over 30,000 years old. The hands themselves are long gone. The outlines remain. They are some of the oldest direct images we have of human beings being human. Tonight, your hand is part of that long, quiet gallery. It does not need to be pressed to any wall. It only needs to rest. Somewhere in the world, an old hand outline is still on a cave wall. And somewhere in the world, your hand is here, at the end of your arm, settling into the bed. Whenever you're ready, let your wrists relax open like petals. They have nothing to grip tonight. Tonight, in a quiet way, the hand of someone who lived 2 million years ago is resting along with yours. The shape of your hand is, in part, an inheritance. The slow gift of bodies that came long before you. The bones in your wrist are arranged in roughly the same way they were in early human ancestors. The thumb is positioned the way it was in those ancient bodies. The fingerprints are formed by the same patient process. When your hand rests on a blanket, It carries with it the long history of every hand that ever closed an eye gently in sleep before yours. You are not the only one resting. Every old hand in your lineage is, in a soft sense, resting too. Tonight, you are not alone in the rest. The long line of hands that led to yours has settled with you. They have all done their day's work, in their long time. Now they share, with your hand, the great quiet permission to be still. Long before there were words, there were gestures. The body's first language was made of hands. Children today still gesture before they speak. They point before they name. They wave before they say goodbye. This is not a small accident. It is a quiet echo of a much older history. Many anthropologists believe that gesture predates spoken language by a very long time, and that the brain's language regions grew up tightly braided with the brain's hand regions. Even today, when adults speak, their hands almost always move along, shaping invisible meaning in the air. The hand is not just a follower of the mouth. It is one of language's first and quietest homes. Tonight, the body's first language is at rest. Your hands are not pointing, not waving, not shaping anything in the air. The oldest tongue you ever had is silent. There is nothing it needs to say before sleep. Sign languages are not simplified versions of speech. They are full languages, with their own grammar, poetry, and play. For a long time, sign languages were misunderstood as gestures attached to spoken words. Careful linguistic study has shown otherwise. Sign languages have their own syntax, their own complex grammar, their own ways of marking time and emotion and politeness. Some have rhymes that work in motion rather than sound. Some have proverbs that only make sense when shaped with the hands. They were not invented to imitate spoken language. They grew up on their own, the way any other language grows up. In the hands and faces of the people who use them, they are entire forests of meaning, blooming in the air. Tonight, every language your hands have ever known is at rest. The signs are not being made. The grammar is silent. The forest is dark and quiet. And somewhere in the dark, all the small hand words are sleeping in the leaves. Inside the brain, Broca's area, long known for speech, lights up for signed language too. Broca's area is a small region in the left front of the brain that has been associated with speech for over a century. When researchers used brain imaging to study people using sign language, they expected to see something different. Instead, they saw Broca's area lighting up almost the same way it does for spoken language. The brain, it turns out, does not specialize in speech specifically. It specializes in language, in any form. The hands, when used as language, walk into the same brain rooms the mouth uses. Tonight, the small language room inside the brain is empty. No words are being shaped, no signs being formed. Broca's area is quiet, the lights low, the chairs neatly placed. The room can wait until morning. The brain doesn't specialize in speech. It specializes in language, wherever the body is willing to make it. This is one of the gentler discoveries of modern neuroscience. The brain does not have a fixed system for speech alone. It has flexible language systems that will work with whatever the body offers. Voice, hands, even patterns of touch in some cases. Children born deaf, raised in sign language, develop language at the same age and in the same pattern as children raised in spoken language. The brain meets the body's offerings with its own quiet generosity. It learns whatever language is being given. Tonight, no offering is being made. The body is offering only stillness, and the brain is meeting that offering with its own. They are agreeing, gently, that no language at all is needed before sleep. Babies almost everywhere in the world begin to gesture before they begin to speak. Long before a child says their first clear word, they will already be reaching, pointing, waving, holding up arms to be picked up. These early gestures predict spoken vocabulary later. Children who gesture more before they speak tend to develop richer language. The hand is not waiting for the mouth. The hand is leading the way. Researchers sometimes call this the hand path into language, and it appears in cultures all over the world, in homes that look very different from one another. Tonight, the very old hand path into language can rest. There is no first word being readied. There is no gesture being practiced. The hands are quiet. The mouth is quiet. And the long road from one to the other is empty for the night. Maybe the eyebrows can rest, with no expression to hold. Their day's quiet stories are told. Even when we speak alone, with no one watching, our hands often move along with our words. If you have ever caught yourself gesturing while talking on the phone, where the other person cannot see you, you have noticed this quietly. Studies show it is universal. People gesture even when alone, even on calls, even when their hands are in the dark. The gestures are not for the listener. They are for the speaker. They help organize thought, retrieve words, hold ideas in the air while sentences form. The hand is not just a messenger of the mind. It is part of how the mind thinks at all. Tonight, the hands have nothing to retrieve. There is no thought being shaped, no idea being held in the air. The quiet partner of the mind is at rest. The mind, in turn, is being allowed to slow down at its own pace, with no help required. A hand can sometimes carry a sentence that the mouth never quite finishes. There are moments in human conversation when a person stops mid-sentence and lets the hand take over. A small open palm, a vague gesture into the air, a finger drawn in a slow circle. The listener somehow understands. The meaning that did not become words has been received anyway. This is part of the secret kindness of the hand. It can complete sentences for us when language fails. And it does this so naturally that we usually do not notice. Many of the most important things ever said between people have probably been said this way. Tonight, no sentence is being held. Whatever you could not quite say today, you do not have to finish before sleep. The hand has set down its small, unfinished words. The air around the bed is allowed to be wordless. Tonight, no sentence is being held, signed, or shaped. The hands are simply at the body's edges, soft and silent. Imagine all the small messages your hands shaped today. The wave to a colleague, the thumbs up sent without thinking, the pointing at a screen, the light tap on a friend's shoulder, the way you held a cup for someone, or wiped a small smudge from a counter. Each of those was a tiny act of meaning. Tonight, all of them are over. The hand has finished its sentences for the day. The next ones, if any, are quietly waiting on the other side of sleep. Tonight, the hands speak only in their own quiet stillness. That, too, is a kind of language. It says, I am here. I am safe. I am ready. Nothing more is needed for the night. Simply holding someone's hand can lower the amount of pain that person feels. When researchers studied couples in mild pain experiments, they found that having a partner hold the hand reduced the rated intensity of pain. The reduction was real, measurable, and went beyond placebo effects. Even brain imaging showed quieter activity in regions tied to pain when hands were held by someone trusted. The hand of another person, gentle on yours, is one of the body's oldest small medicines. Not strong enough to replace anything else, but real, present, and free. Tonight, even an imagined hand can soften something inside you. Whatever the day held, that was sharp. The body can begin to file it down. The hand of memory rests, quietly, on yours. The pain of the day is being gently smoothed over. When two people hold hands kindly, their skin conductance can fall into rhythm with each other's. Skin conductance is a soft measure of the body's small electrical activity, which rises with stress and falls with calm. In hand-holding studies, researchers found that the skin conductance of two people often started to align over time, the calmer person quietly drawing the more anxious person toward them. This effect happens without anyone trying to make it happen. Two nervous systems, through the touch of two hands, begin to rhyme. The body, given the chance, prefers to settle into shared calm. Tonight, even alone, the body remembers how to rhyme. The breath rhymes with the heart. The heart rhymes with the deep, slow tide of sleep. There is no other hand here, but the body is still finding its rhythm, gently, all by itself. The more empathetic the partner, the deeper the synchrony between two held hands. Studies have measured personality traits and looked at how strongly two bodies aligned during hand-holding. Partners with higher empathy showed more synchronized heart rates and skin conductance with the person they were holding. The body, it seems, can quietly tell when it is being heard. Even if no words are spoken, the empathetic hand is not just a hand. It is a kind of small listening device, attached to a kind person, transmitting gentleness through the skin. Tonight, the body trusts itself to be its own kind listener. There is no judgment in the dark. The quietness of the room is not measuring you. The kindness, this time, comes from within. If you'd like, let the chest rise and fall on its own. Gently. There is nothing it has to manage tonight. When two hands meet kindly, the body often releases small amounts of oxytocin, the soft chemistry of feeling safe. Oxytocin is sometimes called a bonding molecule. It rises in the body during gentle, trusted touch, during nursing, during quiet companionship. Holding a kind hand can give a small lift to oxytocin in both people. The result is not dramatic. The body simply feels a little safer, a little more at home in itself, a little less afraid. Many of the everyday gestures that humans love, a hand on a back, a brief clasp at a goodbye, likely owe some of their warmth to this small, patient chemistry. Tonight, the body has its own slow oxytocin, drifting into the dark. The chemistry of safety is not loud. It is simply soft, present, and offered freely. There is nothing you have to do to deserve it. It is already inside you. When two hands rest together quietly, the two heart rates inside their bodies often drift gently toward each other. This is one of the small wonders of paired physiology. Two heart rates, beating independently, will often slow toward a shared average pace if the two bodies are calm and touching. The effect is small. It is not magical, but it is real. And it has been measured in couples, parents and children, and even some pairs of close friends. Two bodies, in soft proximity, prefer harmony to dissonance. The heart, like everything else, leans toward kindness when it can. Tonight, your heart can drift toward its own slow nighttime pace. There is no other heart it has to match. It is simply settling into the pace of the bed, the room, the soft inside of the dark. When kindness passes through two held hands, the breath of both people often softens, sometimes without either noticing. The breath is one of the most honest indicators of safety in the body. When the body feels held, the breath becomes longer, deeper, slower. Studies of partners in calm contact show that this often happens to both at once. Neither person decides to slow their breath. It happens. The way two pendulums hung from the same beam slowly synchronize on their own. The body, in good company, breathes with that company. Tonight, your breath is slowing whether or not you ask it to. The body knows the bed is good company. The room is good company. Even the dark is good company. The breath softens to match. Even imagining a held hand can soften a difficult moment in the body. Studies of mental imagery show that vividly picturing a comforting hand can produce some of the same physiological calm as actually being held. Heart rate may slow, stress markers may dip, breath may deepen. The body does not always know the difference between an imagined hand and a real one. This is sometimes used in therapeutic settings, where people who feel alone are gently invited to remember a hand that once meant safety. Tonight, you may, if you'd like, picture a kind hand somewhere, on the back, on the shoulder, wrapped around your own. The body will quietly believe it. The body has been believing in kind hands for as long as it has had hands at all. Tonight, an imagined hand can rest beside yours, and the body will accept it as real enough to be soothed. Whether the imagined hand is the hand of someone you love, or the hand of an old friend, or simply the picture of a kind hand from somewhere in memory, the brain processes the image with parts of the same network it uses for actual touch. The image becomes a small, safe presence beside you. It does not have to be vivid. It does not have to be perfect. It only has to be soft. Tonight, somewhere very close to you in the dark, an imagined hand may be quietly resting near your own. The warmth is small but real. The room is being kept softer because of it. There is, in some sense, company in the quiet. To fall asleep, the body releases extra heat through its hands and feet. One of the small, reliable signals of approaching sleep is a shift in skin temperature. As the body prepares to rest, blood vessels in the hands and feet open slightly, allowing extra warmth to leave through the skin. This drops the core temperature of the body, which is one of the gentle cues sleep uses to begin. People who fall asleep easily often have warm hands and warm feet at bedtime. People who lie awake often have cool hands. The body has been arranging this nightly handover for a very long time. Tonight, the body's small radiators are already humming quietly. Heat is leaving the palms in soft, invisible waves. The blanket is starting to feel just right. The body is doing its old, dependable preparation, and you may simply lie inside it. You might let your feet grow warm and far away. They have walked enough today. As blood vessels open softly at the palms, sleep often follows close behind. When researchers track skin temperature minute by minute in people falling asleep, they often see a small rise in palm temperature just before sleep begins. The rise is gentle and steady. It is one of the body's most reliable sleep signals. And it is part of why a hot bath, an hour or two before bed, often helps people fall asleep. The bath warms the body, and the body, after the bath, sheds that warmth through the hands and feet. Sleep arrives soon after. Tonight, the palms are warming the way they have warmed before sleep on so many nights of your life. The body knows this rhythm. It has done it thousands of times. It is doing it now, quietly, while the rest of you simply listens. Cold hands at night are sometimes a soft message that the mind has stayed awake longer than the body would like. When sleep is hard to find, the body's normal nighttime warming of the hands does not happen. Some studies have shown that people having difficulty sleeping have cooler hands than people who fall asleep easily. This is not a problem the hands have caused. It is simply the body's quiet way of reflecting that the mind is still doing some kind of work. Warming the hands gently, with a blanket or a soft cup of warm water nearby, can sometimes invite the body back into its sleep rhythm. Tonight, if the hands have ever felt cool in the late hours, that is all right. The body is patient. It will warm them again. The day's last thoughts will soften, and the small radiators will turn back on. Sleep is not gone. It is simply taking the long road home. Warming the face can, a few minutes later, warm the hands. The body has its own small thermostat between the two. In sleep studies of people having trouble sleeping, gently warming the area around the eyes for about 20 minutes increased the temperature of the hands and feet shortly afterward. The body responds to facial warmth by shedding more heat through the distal skin, the hands and feet, which then triggers the rest of the sleep cascade. Many old bedtime traditions, a warm cloth on the face, a steaming cup near the cheeks, may have stumbled kindly onto this old physiology long before science measured it. Tonight, the body's small thermostat is on its own quiet schedule. The face may already feel warm against the pillow. The hands may be warming in answer. The bridge between them is being crossed by the body's own kind heat. Warming the hands gently can, in turn, soften the breath. The body's small systems all listen to each other. When the hands warm, the body interprets this as a sign that it is safe enough to relax further. The autonomic system shifts toward its calmer settings. The breath becomes slower, deeper, longer. Heart rate drops slightly. Muscles ease. None of this is dramatic, but it is real. The body is a community of small organs that all read each other's signals. A warm hand is one of the simplest, gentlest signals it has. Tonight, the warming of the hands and the softening of the breath are quietly handing the day off to the night. They are working together as they have worked together since the very first night of you. There is nothing for you to coordinate. The body is doing it. Many human traditions, in many places and times, have quietly known that warming the hands before bed helps the body rest. Across cultures, the small bedtime habits of warming the hands appear again and again. A cup of warm tea cradled in the palms in cold places. A small bowl of warm water rinsed over the hands before sleep. Hands tucked beneath blankets, warmed by the body's own heat. Prayers said with palms together at the chest. Without the science, people learned the same thing the body has been telling itself for thousands of years. Warm the hands, and the night becomes kinder. Tonight, you are part of that very long bedtime tradition. The blanket is warming the hands. The bed is warming the body. The room is warming the bed. Every small layer of warmth has someone, somewhere, who once knew it as their own bedtime kindness. The body has known the rhythm of warm hands and quiet sleep for thousands of years, longer than anyone has measured it. Long before there were thermometers or sleep labs, the body had already been working out its own bedtime rhythms in slow evolutionary steps. As humans walked out of warm climates and into cool ones, the body's ability to shed heat through the hands and feet became part of how it survived sleep in the cold. Older still, even the smallest mammals our ancestors descended from had similar systems, settling for the night by gently shedding warmth from their distal limbs. The rhythm is older than human memory. Tonight, the body's old nighttime rhythm carries you. It has not forgotten the way home. It is doing what it has always done, in small, steady steps, in the quiet edges of the body. You may simply ride along with it. Perhaps the shoulders can drift another quiet inch downward. They are allowed to be lower than they were. Tonight, your hands may already be growing warmer than the blanket itself. The small night fires of the body, lit again. Place a hand softly under the corner of a blanket on a cool night, and notice, after a moment, how warm the air around it becomes. The hand is doing this, quietly, on its own. The little pocket of air around the palm is being heated by the soft radiators of the skin. The body has been able to make small fires this way since long before there were any others. The warmth is a soft accomplishment of the body's old chemistry. Tonight, those small night fires are lit. The hand is its own little hearth at the edge of you. The blanket above it is warmer than it was. The night is being made gently warmer by your own body, one quiet hand at a time. In dreaming sleep, the body very gently holds almost all of its muscles still, including the hands. When the body enters the dreaming phase of sleep, sometimes called REM, something quietly remarkable happens. The brain becomes very active, even more active than during the day in some ways. But the body's muscles go almost completely still. The legs do not run. The arms do not reach. The hands do not grasp. The brain is the only one moving. This stillness is sometimes called atonia, and it is one of the body's softest acts of self-care. The dreaming mind is allowed to roam freely, but the body is kept gently safe. Tonight, the body is preparing for that old gift to arrive again. The hands will not need to hold the dream. The legs will not need to walk through it. Whatever the mind does in the dreaming hours, the body will quietly be at rest beside it. Two small molecules, glycine and GABA, quietly speak to the body's motor neurons during dreaming sleep, asking them to rest. Inside the spinal cord and brainstem, small chemical messengers called glycine and GABA hush the cells that move muscles. They do not turn the body off. They simply lower its activity to a near stillness, so that even the most vivid dream cannot shake the body awake. Their work is patient and persistent. They keep their soft message running for the entire dreaming phase. and then quietly step back as the body returns to lighter sleep. The hand is asleep partly because of them. Tonight, the small, kind molecules are taking their places. Their message is simple: rest, rest, rest. The motor neurons hear it and lower their voices. The hands hear it through the spine. They lie still, in the soft amber of the night, the signal of dreaming sleep, repeated softly through the body, becomes simple: rest, rest, rest. When researchers measure the brainstem during dreaming sleep, they see steady, repeating patterns of these calming signals being sent down to the body. The hands, the legs, the trunk, the small muscles of the face all receive the same gentle message: do not move, do not lift, do not strain. The body listens. Beyond a few small flickers, the eyes shifting under the eyelids, the breath continuing on its own, the rest of the body remains in soft stillness for the duration of the dream. It is one of the most peaceful states a body can ever be in. Tonight, the body is being asked to consider that simple message in advance: rest, rest, rest. The hands hear it first, because they are usually the most willing. The rest of the body slowly follows. There is nowhere to go. The night is here. During dreaming sleep, the hands enter a soft, amber kind of stillness, as if dipped in honey. This is more than ordinary muscle relaxation. The hands during dreaming sleep are profoundly still. They do not respond to small dream sounds. They do not flinch at imagined surprises. The reflexes that normally answer touch are paused. If a feather were to brush the back of the hand, it would barely register. The body has chosen to keep the hand in a kind of warm suspension while the dreaming is happening, so that no dream becomes a real movement. The hand drifts in slow amber for the length of the dream. Tonight, the hand is preparing for that gentle amber. The day's faster movements are slowing, slowing, slowing. The honey is already beginning to gather around the wrist. The fingers are sinking into a warm and patient quiet that the body has known for a long time. This stillness protects you from acting out the dream. The body's old, careful kindness to itself. Without dreaming, sleep stillness, the body would simply do whatever the dream told it to do. People might run, swing, climb, or fight in the middle of their bedrooms. The body has wisely never allowed this as the default. The chemistry of glycine and GABA holds the body still while the dream is loud. When the dream ends, the chemistry quietly steps back, and the body is allowed to move again, gently. It is a small daily miracle, repeated every night, taken almost entirely for granted. Tonight, that old kindness is preparing to wrap around you. The body, one more time, will hold itself still while the mind is busy. The hands will be safe. The legs will be safe. The whole of you will be safe inside the soft, sturdy walls of the body's nighttime care. Whenever you're ready, let your palms turn softly upward, or stay where they are. The hands are allowed to choose nothing. In dreaming sleep, the mind may run wherever it likes, but the hands stay quietly home. This is one of the great paradoxes of sleep. The dreaming brain is, in some ways, more active than the waking brain. There are bursts of imagination, vivid scenes, sometimes whole long stories, and yet the body is barely moving at all. The hands are the clearest example. They might appear in the dream, reaching, holding, pointing, while the real hands lie at the body's sides, perfectly still. The dreaming hand and the sleeping hand have agreed, long ago, to live in different places at the same time. Tonight, the dreaming hand may roam wherever it likes. It may pick fruit from old trees. It may write a letter to someone you have not seen in years. It may stroke the head of an animal that no longer exists. The real hand beside you will not need to follow. It will simply rest. This nightly stillness of the hands is one of the oldest kindnesses the body has ever shown itself. Many animals show some form of motor stillness during their dreaming equivalent stages of sleep. The behavior is at least as old as the earliest mammals, possibly older. Across hundreds of millions of years, the bodies of countless creatures have practiced this quiet protection of themselves at night. Your hands, lying still on the bed, are part of that very long lineage. They are doing tonight what hands have done for the entire history of dreaming life. Tonight, you are part of an enormous, quiet kindness. The body that protects itself in sleep is also protecting you. The very long line of dreaming creatures, going back further than anyone can imagine, includes the hand at your side. The kindness is being offered to you. Again. Tonight. Tonight. The gift of stillness is already arriving. Not all at once, but gently, like a slow tide. The body does not enter sleep with a sudden jump. It eases in. The breath slows first. The shoulders lower. The hands grow heavier. Eventually, the body crosses into lighter sleep, and later, deeper sleep, and finally into the soft amber of dreaming. Every step of this is a quiet kindness. The stillness is not imposed. It is invited, layer by layer, by a body that has done this thousands of times. Tonight, the stillness is on its way. It is not a thing you have to find or grab. It is a tide. It is already coming up the soft beach of your body. The hands, at the water's edge, are getting wet first. In nearly every culture in the world, hands are how people greet, bless, and bid one another farewell. Some greetings press palms together at the chest. Others clasp hands and shake. Others place a hand softly on the heart. Blessings often involve a hand resting on the head, the shoulder, or the brow. Farewells almost always include a small motion of the hand, a wave, a touch, a slow turn of the wrist. Across thousands of cultures, the hand is the body's most common ambassador of connection. Children learn this without being told. The hand and the heart have known each other for a very long time. Tonight, your hands have done their share of small ambassadorial work. They have greeted. They have blessed. In tiny, invisible ways, they have said goodbye to the day. Now they may rest, like ambassadors who have finally come home from a long, careful journey. In a cave in Argentina, there are painted handprints over 9,000 years old, made by people whose names no one will ever know. The site is sometimes called Cueva de las Manos, the Cave of Hands. Inside, hundreds of hand stencils cover the walls, mostly in red and black pigment. Whoever made them placed their hands against the cool rock and blue pigment from a hollow bone or reed. Most of the hands are left hands, suggesting the painters held the bone with their right. Many of the prints belong to children, They are small. Eternal hellos from people who lived long before any history book. Tonight, your hand is part of that very long, anonymous gallery. It does not need to be painted on a wall to belong. The hand resting on the blanket is, in its own quiet way, a hello to the dark, no different from the hellos pressed onto rock all those thousands of years ago. Some of the cave handprints in the world's oldest galleries belong to children, no taller than a small kitchen chair. Researchers studying handprint sizes in ancient caves have noted the surprising number of children's hands, tiny palms pressed into the cool rock, sometimes alongside larger hands of adults. Whatever the rituals were, the children were included. They were not left at the edge. They were lifted up and given pigment of their own. Across thousands of years, the small fact remains: someone helped a child place a hand on a wall, and the hand stayed there. Tonight, somewhere inside you, there is a child's hand still folded into the larger story. Maybe it was your own. Once. Maybe it belonged to someone you loved. Tonight, all of those small hands, including the one you have now, can rest. The wall is patient. It will keep them. Maybe the tongue can rest at the floor of the mouth, unhurried. There is nothing it has to shape now. Every alphabet that anyone has ever read, in every language ever written, was first shaped by hands. Letters did not arrive on paper on their own. Someone, with a hand, made the first stroke. Someone, with a hand, copied it for someone else. Across thousands of years, hands have shaped, sharpened, simplified, and decorated the small marks that we now call writing. Every book in every library exists because of an unbroken chain of careful hands. Even when machines now do most of the marking, the original shapes were drawn by people, and the people had hands much like yours. Tonight, the long chain of writing hands is at rest. Yours is part of it. The pen, the keyboard, the small brush, all set down. The library is dark, but the books are safe inside it. There is nothing for your hand to copy out before sleep. The first cups, bowls, and lamps in human history were shaped by hands working slowly with clay. Long before anyone fired clay in a proper oven, people shaped soft clay between their palms, pressing thumbs into the center to make small bowls, smoothing the rims with the side of a finger. Some of those bowls survive today, in museums, with the fingerprints of their makers still visible inside the clay. Cups for water, bowls for grain. Small lamps, hollowed out and filled with oil and a wick. Each one was a small kindness from one hand to a future evening. Tonight, your hand is not shaping any clay. The bowls of the day are full or empty, but they are no longer in your palms. The lamp by the bed is shaped, lit, or already turned off. There is nothing your hand needs to make before sleep. Hands have folded countless letters into envelopes, sealed with small, careful pressures of the fingers. For most of recorded history, words traveled in folded paper, a letter to a friend, a letter to a faraway child, a letter that arrived weeks or months after it was sent. Each one, before it began its journey, was folded by a hand. The hand pressed the crease. The hand sealed the envelope. The hand wrote the address in careful letters and put the small stamp in its corner. Even the digital messages of today, sent in fractions of a second, are descendants of those slow, careful folds. Tonight, no letter is being folded. The day's small messages have all been sent. Whatever you wanted to say, and whatever you didn't quite manage to say, is allowed to settle. The hand has folded enough things for one day. Hands have rocked countless babies to sleep, in countless small rooms, on countless quiet nights. Across the entire human story, hands have been some of the most reliable instruments of sleep, especially for the very young. A hand on a small back, a hand cradling a small head, a hand smoothing a soft blanket up to a small chin. Most adults remember, somewhere very deep, a hand that did this for them once. Most adults have done it for someone else. The hand at bedtime is one of the oldest helpers of sleep that humans have ever shared with each other. Tonight, your hand has had its own small history of helping sleep. Maybe other people's, maybe your own. It is allowed, now, to lie still, whatever it has done at any bedside in its life. All of those quiet kindnesses are folded into the soft, warm now of this bed. Tonight, your hands belong to a long, quiet lineage of hands that have meant kindness in the dark. Think of the hands you have known in your life. The hand of a parent at a fever, the hand of a friend at a hospital corner, the hand of a teacher tying a small shoelace, the hand of a partner across a kitchen table. Each of those hands belonged to someone who had also known kind hands, who had inherited the gestures from someone before. Your hands have entered that same line. They have given small kindnesses, even on days you do not remember. They are part of a long inheritance of softness. Tonight, the long line of kind hands is invisible, but it is there. They are all asleep, or at rest, or have already gone where rest is permanent. Your hands are still here. They are still kind, and tonight, like all of them, they are simply allowed to be still. Notice, very softly, where the hands are resting right now. Wherever they are already where they need to be. There is no correct sleeping position for the hands. Some people prefer them at the sides of the body. Some prefer them folded together over the chest or belly. Some let one hand rest under a cheek, the other under the pillow. Some sleep with hands tucked under the blanket. Some leave them above. The body, given enough time, will always find the position that suits it tonight. There is nothing to fix. There is nothing to adjust. The hands have already chosen, even if they did not announce the choice. Tonight, wherever your hands have settled is exactly where they belong. Their position is correct, simply because it is theirs. The body has taken its small architectural decisions. The hand is at home in its own silence. If you'd like, let your legs grow heavy as old quiet roots. They have walked enough. Maybe your hands are at the sides of your body, like two small sleeping animals beside a tired traveler. There is something quietly old about this position. Hands resting at the sides, the arms long and easy, the palms turned in or up. It is the position of bodies on long journeys who have stopped to rest. It is the position of children asleep on cool grass. It is the position of statues carved by very ancient hands. The body settles into it without thinking, the way a horse settles into a familiar stable. Tonight, the small sleeping animals at your sides may breathe softly along with you. They have been good companions today. They have followed you through everything you did. Now they curl up, and they sleep, and your sleep can curl up with them. Maybe your hands are folded together, palms touching softly, the way hands fold during a quiet pause. This is another one of the body's old positions, palms together at the chest, or fingers laced over the belly, or one hand wrapped lightly over the other. Many traditions across the world have used this gesture during prayer, meditation, or quiet thought. The body seems to recognize it as a position of gentle pause. Heart rate often slows in this shape. Breath often deepens. The hand, on its own, sometimes goes there at the end of a long day. Tonight, if your hands are folded together, they are sharing their warmth with each other. They are speaking, in their own quiet way, about safety and stillness. They are reminding the rest of the body that the day is finished and the night is welcome. Maybe your hands are open, palms slightly upward, letting the day quietly fall out of them. An open hand is one of the body's symbols of release. Across thousands of years, philosophies and contemplative traditions have recognized this. The closed fist holds, the open palm releases. This is not a strict rule. Plenty of bodies sleep with hands curled. But for some, the open palm at bedtime is a quiet way of saying, I am not gripping anything tonight. The body sometimes does this on its own, finding the position even when the mind has not asked for it. Tonight, if your palms are open, they are releasing. Whatever the day asked them to hold has been gently let go of. The fingers are uncurled. The thumb is at ease. The day's small weights are scattering harmlessly into the dark. Each fingertip is a small world that has worked hard today. 10 little worlds, asking for nothing more than a quiet night. Think of how many small acts each fingertip performed today. The fingertip of the index finger pressing buttons hundreds of times. Scrolling, swiping, tapping. The fingertip of the thumb steadying countless objects. The fingertip of the ring finger touching small surfaces almost without your awareness. Even the smallest fingertip, the pinky, has met more of the world today than you remember. They have all done their day's quiet work, and now they are allowed to rest. Tonight, the 10 small worlds at the ends of your fingers can stop turning for a few hours. Their tiny days are done. Each one curls or rests into its own quiet evening. They will turn again tomorrow. For now, they are simply still. Each palm is a quiet threshold, a small doorway through which the day has passed. And tonight, the door is closed. Everything you held today passed through your palms in some small way. Cups, doorknobs, phones, keys, papers, perhaps the cheek of someone you love, perhaps the side of an animal. All of it touched, briefly, the inner curve of your palms. Tonight, the doors of the palms are closing softly. No more is coming through. The day's traffic of small held things has ended, and the thresholds are ready to be quiet. Tonight, the soft doors of your palms can rest. They have been open all day. Now they are quietly closed. The way a sleeping house closes its doors at night. The hand is its own small home, with the day shut gently outside. The wrists, like small bridges, can finally lie flat. Their crossings, for tonight, are done. All day, the wrists have been crossings. The forearm meets the hand at this small, complicated joint. and through it have passed every motion of holding, lifting, turning, gesturing. The 8 small bones inside the wrist have shifted and slid quietly underneath. The tendons have moved like long ropes. Now, with the body resting, the wrist is allowed to lie flat. No bridge is being crossed. No traffic is passing through. The crossing is, for the night, simply a still place. Tonight, the small bridges of your wrists are at rest. They are not carrying anything across themselves. The water beneath them, the slow flow of breath and blood, is calm. They have done enough of the day's crossings. Now they may simply lie there. You might notice your hands settling fully now, warmer than the blanket, heavier than they were, already asleep, in their own small way. The thumbs, the long, careful workers of the day, can finally be still. More than any other finger, the thumb has been busy today. It has stabilized everything else. It has pressed, held, gripped, and steadied without thanks. It has made all the small Oz of the day with the index finger, the third finger, the ring finger, the pinky. It has shaped the soft circle of every cup you held. It has pressed the screen, the button, the page. The thumb is the long, quiet worker of the hand. And tonight, its work is done. Tonight, the thumb can curl gently into the palm, or rest along the side of the hand, or simply float in its own loose space. Whatever it carried during the day has been set down. The long worker has finally been allowed to lie down beside the rest of the hand. The hands, all of them, yours and the hands of everyone who ever lived, have done enough today. There is no single hand in the world that has not been used today. Somewhere. Hands holding cups. Hands writing words. Hands cooking food. Hands tending children. Hands resting on shoulders. Hands lifting. Hands sweeping. Hands healing. Hands building. All of them, somewhere, have done enough. The day, with all of its small-handed kindnesses, has been carried on the millions of palms of the world. The carrying, for the night, is finished. Tonight, the world's many hands are coming home to their many bodies. Yours among them, the day's enormous. Quiet work has been done. There is no further handwork needed before morning. The world's hands, including yours, are finally allowed to be still. Whatever your hands carried today, the cups, the keys, the small kindnesses, they may set it all down now. Make a soft inventory, if you'd like. The cup of something warm, this morning, the keys you held when leaving, the phone in your palm 100 times, the hand of someone, briefly, today, the small piece of paper, the pen, the bit of food, the small object that fell and was caught. The hand has held 1,000 small things. None of them need to be held tonight. Whatever weight remains in the palm is allowed, gently, to be set down. Tonight, the day's small inventory is folded into the dark. Nothing is required of the hand. Nothing is being asked. The fingers are uncurled. The palm is empty. The day's holdings have all been set down on the small night table of the body. Your hands are home, and home, tonight, is enough. There is no other place the hands need to be. They are at the body's edges, exactly where they belong. They have come back, as they always come back, from whatever their day asked of them. Whatever you carried in life, whatever you carry tomorrow, the hands have finished their travel for the night. They are home. The body is home. The bed is home. And home, tonight, does not need to be anything more than this. Tonight, the longest whisper of the body has finally trailed off. The sentence is finished. The hands are home. The day is closed. There is nothing left to hold. Your hands are home. And home, tonight, is enough. We have wandered through 100 soft facts about your hands, the bones, the listeners, the rivers of warmth, the small private maps, the brain's big hand, 2 million quiet years. You do not need to remember any of it. None of it is asking to be carried into tomorrow. Notice now where the hands are. Maybe they are heavier than when we began. Maybe a little warmer. Maybe a little more theirs. Whatever they carried today, the cups, the keys, the screens, the small kindnesses, they may set it down now. There is nothing left to hold. Your hands are the body's longest whisper, and the whisper is allowed, finally, to trail off into sleep. If you are still here, that is all right. If you are already mostly somewhere else, that is all right too. Whenever you are ready, let your hands, and the rest of you, be home. And home, tonight, is enough.